and thanks for joining us on NewsWest 9. I'm Sydney Jolivet. As you know, the November 4th election is coming up, and one of the items that will be on the ballot in Midland is the city seat for City Council District 3. Joining me in studio now is Ms. Shandi Williams. She's running for Midland City Council District 3. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy.
Awesome. So let's jump right in. You are a third-generation Midlander. So what made you decide now is the time to run for City Council?
Well, honestly, the Lord directed my steps. I had no intention of being involved in politics. It just so happened that it crossed my path and there was a need. And when there's a need, that's where I step in. I've always believed in being the hands and the feet of Jesus. And so this was just one more opportunity to serve my community and serve them well. So
awesome. And so as being a small business owner, how would you say that gives you and shapes the reality of when you think of leadership and managing city resources?
Well, one thing, I think it shapes a lot of it. And being a small business owner and a female-owned business owner, they have their own obstacles. Aside from our businesses that we actually have here in Midland, we have one of the largest tourist attractions in the Gulf Coast, and so we are proud to have done that. And we did that with the West Texas Grit and Hustle, and I always tell people about that. Without the hardships that we have seen and we have faced here in West Texas, we could have never built the demographics that we have there in Port Aransas to flow for Port Aransas. Mm-hmm. It's a very volatile community. Even though it's a tourist attraction community, it mirrors a lot like the oil fields, and everything plays off of that. So I think it's very valuable that we are cautious of managing our resources. We need to be very fiscally conservative and responsible, which we currently have not been. And we need to be saving those rainy day funds instead of creating slush funds.
Absolutely. And so you talked about wanting to build better roads and faster. What do you see as the biggest issue with how Midland handles road projects today?
Well, currently we're putting road projects on top of road projects on top of road projects. You're seeing the frustration with businesses. Just last night I was at a business and their biggest complaint is they had 2 road projects within their vicinity, and unfortunately it was slowing down their business. We have an entire strip just south of the railroad tracks on Garfield Street, and those businesses are ideally shut down. They are not functioning. They're supposed to be back up by January. That has now changed. It's now going to be March before they're fully back in swing. But these are businesses, small business owners just like myself, that unfortunately have not had the opportunity to grow as they should be, and they're not able to save right now as they should be. We've got a downturn coming. A lot of people know it. We don't know how big it's going to be or how small it's going to be, but we know there's a downturn coming, and we need to be able to prepare for that. Well, so do these other small businesses, and these are very, very versatile businesses. You've got a Western store, you have a African hair braiding store, you have an African food market, and you have a tattoo parlor, all within this little shopping center. On the other side, you have a collision center, and their businesses have been impacted directly because of our choices for these road projects that we put on top of each other. Instead of doing one project going one way, we're doing the entire road at the same time. Mm-hmm. Some of those things don't make sense. We're also taking the lowest bidder on these projects, and Garfield was a prime example. Garfield was a 3-year project. It should not have been, and it sat for 10 months. And those 10 months, unfortunately, we were waiting on storm drains from Canada, I believe. And that's unfortunate. We need to be buying American products. We need to make sure that our roads and our vendors are held to a strict timeline, because the people in Midland, we have commuting 90% of us are commuting, right. Whether it's just moms going to soccer practice, or if it's a business owner who's trying to get from one project to another. Commuting is a big part of our daily adventures, and so we need to make sure that we're being really conservative, not just with the numbers, but with the vendors that we choose, and making sure we hold them to a strict timeline.
Absolutely. And so on one hand, you have some good news that Midland is constantly growing, and that's really good for the city and the businesses and economics. But on the other flip side of that coin, you also have outpaced infrastructure. So how would you plan to approach long-term planning differently when it comes to things like better road planning?
So one, we have to look at Midland as an entire unit, Odessa as an entire unit. These two need to work collectively and collaboratively together, because if you've noticed, we are growing into Odessa and Odessa is growing into us.
Right.
And so we need to make sure that when we're looking at the big picture of infrastructure, we're securing the roads, we're securing the waters, and these are things that are going to work in the next decade. We have grown immensely. I believe they put out the new population, it was 157,000, but they actually believe it to be more along the lines of 165,000 in Midland. And if those numbers are true and accurate, we are growing leaps and bounds, and it is wonderful. We're going to bring in some diversification, but we also need to make sure that those roads, if we're looking forward in the future, in 3 generations from now, those roads are still working for Midland in commuting day to day and commuting long distance.
Perfect. And so you also emphasize managing tax dollars like a family budget. So what would you say are some of the areas where you think Midland could cut cost or improve oversight?
One of the greatest things is we could actually start delegating our sales tax and our dollar amounts into a better entity, or clean up the entity that it's currently collecting those, and that would be the Midland Development Corporation. MDC has been irresponsible with our tax dollars. They've been eating $6,000 Cowboy Prime dinners. We did a FOIA request and have gotten lots of information. Tull City Brewery is owned by a brother that is on planning and zoning. Again, that's, you've got cross interest there. Jared Sparks owns that. And they've spent hundreds, almost thousands of dollars each trip to Tull City Brewery. And we need to make sure that we're using those tax dollars conservatively. And we're not when you look at the MDC FOIA request.
And so also kind of jumping on that same topic, accountability is a big part of your platform. How would you keep residents updated on what's happening in the city projects and things that they need to know about, decisions that are happening? How would you make sure they know about that transparency factor?
Well, number one, I believe transparency and accountability equal trust. And right now we do not have trust with the citizens of Midland. And that is unfortunate, because that is the basis of all things that are created. So you have all these speculations out there, and they have no reason to speculate because they haven't been informed. And so we need to keep social media is, one of our hugest benefits that we have. It's a benefit that we can utilize at all points throughout, and that is, people who live here and people who don't, people who are coming here and people who aren't. And then also holding town hall meetings. We need to get back to good old-fashioned town hall meetings, and we need to make sure that our city council agendas are being, everything is just, put out there in as at the most blatant form of English that any standard person can understand. Because when we hear about budgets and things like that, we hear them talking in percentages and statistics. And when you're running a household, that's not percentage statistics, that's numbers, that's days. And we need to be running on those sorts of things and talking about that. And so I would love to see us come together for good town hall meetings, but get those city council times changed. Odessa does it. They don't have an issue, and if we're saving money and we're fiscally conservative in other areas, we can afford to change our council times to the evenings so that more people can come in and be informed. And then we also want to have their opinions. We don't want to just inform them. We want to know what they want, because at the end of the day, it's the blue-collar workers who run Midland, Texas. So we need to know exactly what are their desires and dreams for Midland.
And so that touches right on my next question. What have been some of the things that you've been hearing from your constituents in District 3 that they're saying they want to see in their city representative?
Well, one of the things is accountability and transparency, and they want somebody who's going to show up. Multiple constituents have come and said that, unfortunately, that the current sitting council member, Jack Ladd, has been unresponsive, has not responded to phone calls or emails. When asked questions, he states that he'll get back with them. We've seen issues where he wants to have lots of closed-door meetings with people on reasons why he's voted a certain way. And if you can't be transparent and in public, then you shouldn't be holding a city council seat.
And so as we were talking about, Midland is continuing to grow. How do you plan to balance that growth with still preserving the community values that you grew up with?
One, we put our values first. Growth is always going to be second, but we need to hold Midland and the heart of Midland first, and it's always been the people. If you go to San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, anywhere like that, they automatically pick you out from a crowd and know that you are different. And the reason is because people in Midland, they're friendly, they're hospitable. There's just a nature that we have just about us. And
Absolutely.
you know, we are hustlers. We are oil-filled, you know, wind blown dirt, grit, and grime. Every single one of us, that has built us in some sort of fashion. And that's one of the things that, you know, we need to make sure that we're holding really tight. But we need to take corporate America ideology out and put back in the good traditional values, and the growth will come from that. People will want to raise their families here when they see that our school districts are in line, that our, you know, our property taxes are in line, our property appraisal, not just the rate, but the appraisal values are in line. When we're given a flourishing opportunity to have good, wholesome values, then the people are going to come. You know, it's kind of like the old adage saying from Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. And you just have to put your faith that that's still going to hold true today.
Perfect. And so just about wrapping up for us, when voters think of Shandi Williams, what do you want them to really take away from the campaign that you've been running when it comes to your leadership, your service, and just what you stand for?
One, I serve the people. That is what I'm here for. I'm going to be accessible. I'm going to be 100% transparent with you. If you have any questions, please come and ask me. I'm an open book. I tell everybody I don't have any skeletons in my closet, and they're all dressed willing and welcoming to come out. I love the people of Midland. Midland is a precious community, and I haven't left for a reason. I didn't leave and come back. I've always been here. I am the heart of Midland, and I know that service is one of the things that set us aside from everyone else. And so I am a servant. And if you look at my long history track record across the state of Texas, I have served communities selflessly, because that is what my heart's desire is. If there's a need, I see it and I fulfill it. And I'm a really good listener. And so I can't wait to hear more about what the constituents of Midland County perceive their Midland to look like in the next 3 decades.
Perfect. Well, those are all of our questions, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. And don't forget that Election Day is November 4th. We will be posting full interviews like this one on our website at newswest9.com. They'll also be available on our YouTube channel and our streaming service 9+, which is available on Fire Stick, Roku, and Apple TV+. I'm Sydney Jolivet with NewsWest 9. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.